Okay guys, so this is the first of our repair videos that we're going to attempt to stream. We'll see how it goes. And then it'll let us know what we need to do for the future. So what we have here, let me just change to the text shot. So what we have here is an a PS, let's rephrase that, an Xbox One system that has a damaged HDMI port, and I don't know if I can get that shown. Probably not to the degree that you guys need it. But just on this guy here, you can see it doesn't lay straight. It's kind of on an angle. It's a broken HDMI port for whatever reason. Probably got yanked out. There's actually quite a bit of damage around the edge of it, which probably describes more or less why it got damaged. It looks like it's been in and out of that system many times. And in this case, may have got yanked or whatever. But regardless, we need to get that HDMI port out and put in a replacement. So we're going to walk through the processes anyways. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually open up the console. And this is going to be a little bit more challenging, only because I usually do it in my lap. And one of the tools I need is actually sitting on my desk in my office. So I'll be back in one quick second. Okay. So, first thing we need to do is actually get this open, and let me angle it because I'm still going to do it in my lap. It's just easier. So there is release tabs on the side in different spots. These systems are easy and not so easy to actually open. It's nice that it's kind of toolless, but at the same time, it can be a pain when you get to certain spots where the clip doesn't want to release. There it goes. And then there's always this one corner that actually has the Microsoft sticker on it, which we will remove. Of course, it removes the cover, but not the actual sticker. You guys can't really see. Yeah, I physically told you. Yeah, sorry, just streaming, but yes. Okay. Okay, so we've got the back cover off. What we need to do now is grab our line, take off the green screws, and we're actually going to be taking off every single screw you see, so we need to get down to the board level. So we will be working around distractions of the store. I mean, obviously, I'm involved in a lot of the stuff that happens here, so there will be questions from time to time from employees and such, or the phone ringing off the hook. And surprisingly not, I mean, a lot of people use power tools or small hand drills, that kind of thing. I don't, for most of the repairs I do. I prefer the hand tools. And no, I don't have the really high-end iFixit tools, kits, or any of that kind of stuff. It takes up quite a bit of room on the desk. I prefer to just have a container holding all my tools and having the tools I've been using for the longest time in hand. So yeah, there's definitely easier screwdrivers and such. These are handy because they're inexpensive, and when they get stripped, you can just kind of throw them out and continue on. Now, most of these screws that I'm taking out actually hold the components inside the system. So the hard drive, the CD drive, the power supply and everything are actually held in with those screws. Now what we have here is the pretty similar to the original design of the Xbox 360, the one you used to red ring all the time. This is a X clamp, and funny enough, Sony has always used 2 points of contact for the actual heatsink, and Microsoft has always used 4 points of contact. Earlier on, it was always perceived that Sony used 2 points of contact because they had more confidence in their processors and not having soldering issues or anything like that, whereas Microsoft was having problems, so they went to 4 points of contact. On the Sony, they kept going with the 2 points of contact up until the Pro. The Pro is actually using very similar with the X configuration on the back of the system. I take out all the screws from the very beginning just because it's convenient. You could just take off the top cover and then flip it around, take out a few of the components, and do it in steps. I would prefer to do it all at one time. So from here, put up that cover off and put that aside. And this part just pulls straight up. What you're looking for? Small flathead. Should have one, right? Okay. So we're just pulling out all the components so we can get it down to the bare board. This clip is very hard to get a hold of. Clip just on the inside. So actually that one's reversed. I gotta fix that. But this clip here, there is actually a retention clip on the back side, which you kind of have to pinch in while wiggling it up to get it to release from the board. Drive just pulls right out since we removed the screws that hold it in place. Now, we don't have to actually take off this. We can leave this attached to the board when we're actually doing the HDMI ports. If it gets in the way, then feel free to actually take it out. That's fine too. So this off the side here is actually the Wi-Fi adapter, and there's just 2 Torx 8 screws holding it on. Actually 3. The Xbox One systems do not have the problem that the PS4s have for the most part when it comes to HDMI ports. We replace a crap ton of PS4 HDMI ports because the ports are crap. It was the same problem they had with the PS3s, but for some reason it's magnified by the PS4s. I don't know if there's just a lot more people moving their systems around or whatnot, but yeah, the PS3s had the similar problem, but if you went to component video cables, it gave you the same kind of output. So we didn't do a lot of repairs on them because component video cables are quite a bit more or less expensive. And for most people, they were happy with that as an alternative rather than spending, you know, $100 and something to change out an HDMI port on a system that's only worth that much. So here we have the RF adapter on the front here, which controls the front power buttons and everything like that, but also other communication. So, sorry, I'm distracted. Hardest part I got to get through with this whole streaming thing is the fact that successes and failures actually show up. So it's not some edited video that I can get rid of all the mistakes or panic moments or whatever. This is actually showing you guys exactly what's going on. Okay, so we've got all that out. All the pieces are out. Now time to remove the board. Oh yes, the retention clip. So there is a little clip on the front here. So there's a little clip right here. It just needs to be lifted off and slid off. Yep, so easy. There it is there. This side. And again, this aside. Okay, so here we have the HDMI ports. If this was a Sony one, on the back side here, you would actually see pins pushing out from the physical damage of the actual port itself. The Xbox ones are a hell of a lot more durable and they don't have that problem, so not an issue. Other parts out of the way. Take a look at this under the microscope. We'll take off this port and put on a replacement port. So this part you're actually not going to see it as well as I would probably hope. But here we have the microscope level of the HDMI port. So that's the actual port there. On the back side of it, that we're going to be working on, it is literally just the 4 solder points. So it's literally just the 4 solder points. So what I'm going to do is apply heat to that, and we'll get the port out of there. The back side is where the actual solder points are for the actual HDMI port. Now, that part is actually, so let me change back over here. So what we're going to do is just heat up on the actual board itself. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is just heat up these points here, and we're going to heat them up enough that it actually melts the solder on the back, and then it'll allow us to pull the port off. So turn it around this way. This crotch shot. Okay. So even the port itself is actually spread out. I mean, I can stick my finger in the one crevice there. So it is completely damaged. Funny, you can't see a lot of that stuff until you actually take it off. Just gonna grab our hot air tool here. This is my crap flux that is kind of keep around for this kind of thing, not for the detailed soldering, but I'm gonna apply some flux to the actual solder that's on there. We'll get this heated up. While that's doing that, let me find my tools. So this port we actually don't give a crap about. So if we melt it a bit, doesn't matter. As long as it comes off properly, that we can get the, as long as it comes off properly, we can get the other port out. Starting to get there. There we are. That's the old port, the old damaged one that we don't want. Okay, so we're gonna flip this over and take a look at the pads themselves, just to make sure there's no problems with them. Try and get the microscope over a bit better. Oh. Yeah, can you get a phone number for me, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so there we have the pads there. What I like to do is actually just clean it up with a little bit of fresh flux. So fresh solder, fresh flux, just to get a nice level coating of actual leaded solder. They use non-leaded solder on all these systems, which if you're watching this video, you probably already know about it. Not as good as the old leaded stuff. The leaded stuff had consistent temperatures that it melts at. The unleaded stuff is a lot higher temperature. It's a crappier solder. It's more brittle. My opinion, just crap. But load up with some actual solder here. Hit the pads. We'll get that cleaned up. And we're just using a 99% isopropyl alcohol here. So as you can see, a lot nicer looking port there. I'm going to put that aside and we'll prep the actual port itself. So these ports here, there isn't really a new manufacturer for these. So these ones here are 100% conditioned ports that were actually reconditioned off of non-functioning systems. So what I want to do is the exact same thing I did to the board. I want to actually get some fresh solder, some fresh leaded or leaded solder on the actual pins. There we are there. For you guys. Okay. That lighting is really crappy. I don't know if it's trying to adjust it or... I apologize. I'll work on that after the stream. Trying to get it going properly there. Little solder on the actual iron. Solder it on there, and we'll get rid of those bridges. Not normally the tip I use. Usually the bridges will actually sort themselves out when we actually go to solder the port, but sometimes it doesn't, and it's a lot easier to deal with it now than it is to deal with it after the fact. Problem is you can't get much flux. The tips themselves. Okay. It looks like we don't have any bridges anyways. Yeah, no bridges. Okay. So out of there. So now what we need to do is actually heat up the board again. Test shot. Okay, so what essentially is going to be happening is I'm going to be holding the port. So I'm going to be holding the port with my pliers. I'm going to heat up the actual board itself from the backside, and then I'm going to line up the port and actually put it through the actual retaining clips or the retaining solder points until it's level with the board. And then after that, we're going to use a pair of pliers to apply a little bit of pressure to the actual port itself to make sure that it's sitting nice and flush against the actual board itself. And the heat that we're passing through the actual board will solder the pins over, but afterwards we're going to look under the microscope and make sure that those pins are properly soldered on. We're going to touch each point and make sure that it is properly secured to the board. If it's not, then we can touch it up at that point. So what I like to do as a trick is attach the port to, these are actually wire strippers, funny enough. So attach it to there, rather than holding it. Thank you. Oh, Sydney, okay. Okay. So rather than having to hold it, now I have my hands free. It's holding on to the actual port itself. I can change hands and everything else. I don't have to worry about dropping the actual port. So my heat here, and we'll try and zoom in so at least you can see a little bit of the action. I have to change that setting too. It doesn't quite zoom in as much as I'd want it to. Okay. So we're just going to get these warmed up. No point putting the port under the extreme heat. Really hard to do and actually have on camera. This is the reason why I'm doing it. I need an angled tip almost, because if I go from this direction, it's not that bad. Just warm on me now. Okay, there's the port. So it just went into place. And a lot of guys kind of stop there and they make sure the actual solder points are actually attached on the other side. And you know, most likely they are. I just always like to go a little bit further, apply a little bit more pressure to the port, make sure it's nice and flush on the actual board. And that's what I'm going to be doing right now. So these pliers are going to look a little bit overkill for the operation. I just like to know that the actual port, so we're not applying really any pressure. It's just this saves my hands from getting burnt off. And just ensures that the port is properly attached 100%. I can see the right side is actually through the holes a little bit more than the left side. So I already know that if I was to look at the other side, I'd see that the one side of the pins are actually riding a little high. And once it's melted, I'll actually feel the port slide in that last little bit. That doesn't work. Okay. Wait for that solder to solidify. Then we'll flip it over and take a look under the microscope. So those pliers are going to be really hot, so we'll pull all away. Okay, so what we're going to do is take a look under the microscope. Turn that off. Okay. Zoom in there. Okay, what I tend to do is just run tool to the pins. Make sure that they all stay in place. I can see that they're all properly soldered on. Okay. So as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of surface content, or surface contact with the solder. The actual port goes really far back, all the way to the front, which actually gives a huge amount of contact versus even the PS4 ones. The PS4 ones, even the ones I've opened lately, I'll show you the other port here. So this is the Microsoft soldered one. Obviously, they only apply solder to the parts that actually make contact, which is why you have a lot of copper on this side. But yeah, so there's the Microsoft one. There is mine. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up. Actually, while I talk to you, I'm going to change around something here. So bear with me for a second. Now I can actually move it up the table a bit. Or not. Go back to the editor for a second. Okay. So there we see it a little better. So what we're going to do is again use a little bit of alcohol. We'll just clean that port up. Get rid of any of the crap that makes our work that we just did look even worse. We don't really need to clean up a lot on the bottom, but we will. So we don't need to apply any more solder here. There's only a few times that I've actually had to, where there just didn't seem to be enough solder actually at the pads themselves that we'd apply more. But for the most part, I mean, this is a very secure port. It's not going anywhere. There's plenty of solder on those. If I needed to, you just have to let the iron sit on the points for a longer period of time, because it does have to actually heat up the port in order to actually allow you to solder it. So depending on your soldering iron, you may need to do a little bit more on that one. Okay, so we've got that done. So we're ready to actually do the reverse of what we already did to get to this point. So we need to put the system all back together. Okay, first things first. Reverse the order of all the parts that are sitting over here. First and foremost, that's why I did it that way. Okay. First and foremost, this board goes in. Easier to go back to front. We have that little retaining clip, which mixed in with the screws. Okay, so the retaining clip is going to go on. Not even sitting flat. There. Okay, so the retaining clip is on. From this point on, we can put all the components back in. So start with whatever component we want to start with. So the power supply, plug it in first. Lay it down. And again, all the screws on the back actually hold these components in place. Drive itself. And actually, you know what? I'm going to put this piece in first. This is just to guide the actual screws from the top of the case to the bottom of the case to screw into. And we've got our RF adapter. With a bunch of these longer black screws. Funny enough, I was just about to say, so one thing you don't want to do is screw these down all the way, because there is a little bit of movement ability, and that's what I didn't allow for. So find all the holes for these screws to go into first, and then tighten them down afterwards. Makes it a hell of a lot easier. Somebody asked me a while back how you actually make tools magnetize. You have to be extremely careful with this thing because you can kill the actual hard drive. So any of the hard drives or anything else, you can actually erase the information as long as it's not a solid state hard drive. So it's any kind of traditional mechanical drive. You can kill the contents of the drive or cause corruption of the drive just by putting a magnet anywhere near it. So please be careful with this. But this tool here, I personally picked it up at like Princess Auto. I think they're like $5 to $10 or something. I bought it about 7 years ago. They never really die, but realistically, to magnetize your tool, that's all you do. Go through the rectangle a few times. That magnetizes it. So you can actually grab your screws a little bit easier. So we've got that one in there. Now we need the Wi-Fi adapter. Wi-Fi adapter just plugs into this back area. And then on that one, reverse that one. There's 3 screws there. Just gonna screw those 3 in. Again, the long black ones. Okay, so we got those on. Might as well do the drive next. And on that note, I'm going to take a very, very short intermission. I just need to make a quick phone call, so I apologize. If you're just tuning in, all you'll see is the coming soon, but we'll be right back anyways. Where do I have See, this is the reason why I don't do the full streaming thing. Because now, for some reason, my desk cam is screwed up. So I get that going again. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, nice. Yeah. Oh boy. So for some reason, my the desk cam is actually decided not to work. The good news is the system is pretty much done. We just have to put the last components back in it and put her back together. Unfortunately, I won't be able to finish the stream to show you that part, and I apologize for that. I will give it a few minutes here, and perhaps I should turn on the actual audio so you guys can hear me rather than just see my face. But yeah, this is the reason why I'm doing a test stream. My desk camera has actually stopped producing video right now, so I won't be able to show you the putting the system back together, but the work is already done anyways. I'm not concerned about that. Yeah, so as far as that goes, we're just gonna put it back together. It will work. I know all the connections on the port are working fine and connected fine, so not concerned about that. Just unfortunately, I won't be able to show you that part. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later.